What's going on, everybody? It's David from the 80s, and you are now entering the Cinema Chop Shop. So park your ass right there. Today, I'm here with another review. Today, I'm going to be reviewing The Five Bloods by Spike Lee. Now, the way I feel about Spike Lee, honestly, is I feel like as a director, he doesn't really have the resume that he once had. He hasn't really done much since the 2000s to me that was really good. The Black Klansman to me was an interesting story, but it wasn't executed as well, especially because the lead in the movie was kind of boring to watch. In my opinion, Kylo Ren saved that movie. But let's get into the synopsis of this movie, The Five Bloods. So this movie basically follows four soldiers returning back to Vietnam after the war in order to find the remains of their fallen leader. They're also trying to find some gold that they buried there, and they want to take home as well too. So, the good in this film. So, this movie has. Let's run over the cast real quick. They have Chadwick Boseman, who's Norman, the squad leader. You may know him as T'Challa. They have Delroy Lindo, which is Paul. I remember him from Gone in 60 Seconds. They have Jean Reno, who was Leon from Leon the Professional. They have Clark Peters, who I know from The Wire, and Isaiah Whitlock, who I also know from The Wire. You know, Mr. Shit. Him. They also have Paul Hauser, who I know as Stingray from Cobra Kai, and he also was in Richard Jewell. So let's talk about the good in this film. The good in this film. This movie has a great soundtrack. The soundtrack is amazing, right? They have a lot of Marvin Gaye. It kind of stays true to the era, in my opinion. The cast also in this movie, they're also great. They also do a great job. One especially, Delroy Lindo. He does this. He does an amazing job as the character that he's portraying in this film. He does a really good job. I don't really want to go into details about it, but he kind of gives off that impression of a soldier that you will once see after coming home from the Vietnam War. Now, the idea for the story is very, very interesting. I think the idea for the story was really, really great. Now, was it conducted in a great way? We'll get there when we get there. Also, the movie is filled with great history lessons. So they talk about random people that served in Vietnam, and they highlight them and show their pictures. Also, they talk about the effects of war, how it has different effects on people. Each character in this movie kind of like is a catalyst to what could transpire to people that have been affected by the war. It affected people in different ways, and this is like the several different ways that it has affected them. Now, is there any bad in this movie? Bad in this movie, in my regards, are things that are kind of bad, but they're kind of forgivable. It's something that you can look past. Like, it's, oh, okay, that's kind of bad, but it's not going to throw the whole film in a garbage can. Not really. This film is very unique because it's either there's good and then there's bad. There's no in between with this film. It's very unique in that regard. So let's dig into the atrociousness. One of my many gripes with this film, one of the most atrocious things that happened in this film, the ultimate sin, is that the story drags until about halfway through the film. Remember, this movie is very, very long. It's 2 hours and 35 minutes. So the halfway mark is like an hour into that thing, which is terrible. Terrible. So you're basically bored half of the movie until it starts to pick up when they go on their mission. Me, honestly, this movie has way too much fat. They could have trimmed a lot of the nonsense out of this film. Though you didn't have to focus so much on the, oh, we're brothers. We kind of like, we need to catch up, and the buddy, the bonding. Like you didn't need to spend so much time on those aspects of the film. You could have trimmed a lot of that fat. This movie did not have to be 2 hours and 35 minutes, in my opinion. So that was another gripe in this movie. This movie was ridiculously long. Like, I remember when I was halfway through it and I kind of pushed pause and I looked and I was like, damn, there's still an hour left of this movie? Like, good Lord. Like, whoa. Like, how long is this film? Like, I didn't even realize how long it was until after the fact when I Googled it. This movie's way too long. It has too much fat in it. It should have been trimmed down. this movie could have been a solid. If it would have, this movie probably would have been solid if you would have trimmed it down to about an hour and a half. The fact that he tried to arts it out and stretch it out to 2 hours kind of like made it kind of unbearable in some parts. So then when a movie finally does pick up, you're kind of like already kind of out of interest already. You're kind of uninvested in this film already. So that's bad that's bad for Spike Lee as a director that's been around the bush to do something like this. Now, also in this film, what I don't like is they have like random political jabs. Now, I get it. If you're making a movie that is a political movie and it's kind of grounded in politics, then I understand modern day jabs. But those jabs within this movie kind of seem to come from out of nowhere. They're out of context and they kind of like they're displaced. They don't seem like they belong there. It just seems like it was done just to be like, oh, I need to throw this in there just to be like, oh, like, yeah, I need to throw that in there just because. It didn't really have any placement. You get what I'm saying? So if a lot of people have seen the Black Klansman and they kind of, I think they honestly understand probably what I'm gearing towards. Like I said, the political jabs this movie were kind of like non-factual. They kind of didn't need to be there. They didn't add anything to the story. It honestly just seemed like it was there to be kind of like petty, you know? Also, another thing that I didn't like about this movie is that they didn't use younger actors for the flashback scenes. Why do you have an old ass Clark Peters, Isaiah Whitlock, and who else? And Delroy Lindo in freaking flashback scenes when you're supposed to be a younger version of yourself in Vietnam? These men are old as hell in these flashback scenes, and it's kind of like, what the hell are like? Why didn't you get younger actors to play them? Like you literally have these old gray men in Vietnam, and then afterwards you're trying to have them play themselves at an older age, but they look exactly like they did when they were young. It's so stupid. It was dumb to me. Like it was really dumb. Uh, Honestly, another thing that kind of annoyed me too was that they had Chad kind of. I don't like movies that advertise specific actors, but then they don't really have a detrimental role in the movie. I don't like that. Like if you're gonna tell me that Chad's gonna be in the movie, and then it's like only for like flashback scenes, then it's kind of like what was the point of having his name up there on the list if like he's not really in the movie? You could at least put him down on the credits, you know? That was another gripe that I have with this film. So my biggest gripe with this film is the pacing. The pacing of the film really, for me, throws it off. And if I have to grade this film, and I know maybe there might be some people that disagree with me. Who cares? I'm going to give this movie a 2 out of 5. That dragging from the middle to the beginning completely threw me off. And no matter how good the third act of this movie was, which was pretty damn good, it couldn't save it from the fact that you bored the hell out of me for over an hour. Like, I can't forgive it. Like, you bored me for over an hour in order to reward me later. Like, you're lucky I didn't turn the movie off and I didn't check out. That, to me, ruined the movie. If he would have trimmed this movie down to about an hour and a half, he would have really had a solid film. And that movie it would have been really good. But the fact that he chose to go the long route and to fatten it up, and it just, to me, it just didn't do much of the story. Like, it didn't develop the story. It didn't build on the story. It honestly didn't do much for the film, but hurt it. So that's my grade. I give it a 2 out of 5. If you guys want to go ahead and check it out, you can check it out on Netflix. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comment section. You already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button on your way out. Until next time, this is David from the 80s, and you are now exiting the cinema chop shop. Adios.